The following is a conversation with Bob Galinski. Bob is an ultra runner, recently completing the Virgil Crest 100 miler, coming in third place overall. Bob has quite a resume of physical accomplishments, ranging from getting his pro bodybuilding card, Adirondack 46er, single season winter 46er, open water swimmer, former Jiu Jitsu student, and Crossfitter. This is being recorded in September of 2022. In the year to date, Bob has run over 1,600 miles over the course of 219 runs and 408 hours of training. He has averaged 74 miles a week and has accumulated over 314,000 feet of vertical gain. In addition to his insane volume of training, he is the owner of a successful personal training gym, Gym Oneida. I've been friends with Bob for over 10 years. He inspires me, as I'm sure he will many of you. But most of all, he's a great human being. I'm excited to be talking with Bob and going behind the scenes with what it takes to run 100 miles with over 22,000 feet of vertical gain. You are listening to the Co-Movement Gym podcast, where we inspire people to move and live courageously. If you are enjoying our content, please support our sponsors in the description. I thank each and every one of you for being on this journey with us. Now, please enjoy the show. Folks, listen up. I want to take a brief moment and thank our podcast show sponsors, Lombardi Chiropractic, Native Path Supplements, and Redmond Life. Lombardi Chiropractic has been my personal chiropractor for 10 years and has kept my body strong and healthy. Native Path Supplements are used by numerous co-movement clients and our coaching team here at the facility. I highly recommend that you try their chocolate collagen peptides. I was made aware of Redmond Life by one of our trainers here at the facility. He recommended I try Relight electrolyte powder. This supplement has dramatically improved my afternoon energy levels and overall hydration. I'd like to thank these three companies for providing outstanding service and products that make our society healthier and more resilient. Mention the Co-Movement Gym podcast when you call Lombardi Chiropractic, and not only will they treat you like family, they will provide a nice, enticing discount to all listeners. And use code COMO15, that's C-O-M-O 15, at checkout when shopping at nativepath.com or redmond.life and receive 15% off all your orders. Your support to our show sponsors assists in us paying for expenses and continuing to provide content we hope you all enjoy. How you doing, Bob?
Good. How are you, Josh?
Good. Welcome to the studio. How you feeling?
Feeling pretty good, actually.
Yeah. You just finished your first 100 miler. And I wanted to get you on the show to talk about just the experience, because I was there for some of it.
Yeah, I appreciate you and Jenny coming down.
Yeah,
it was awesome to see some familiar faces.
Yeah, mile 33, mile 40, and mile 44. And then we took off, and then we went to bed, and you ran all through the night.
Yep.
So it was really interesting. I wanted to get you on the podcast to talk about just the experience, so people have an idea of what is entailed with running 100 miles. You completed it in 28 hours and a few minutes, right?
Yeah, 37, I think is the official time.
So 28:37.
Yep.
So first question, and I don't know the answer to this, but like, what kind of person runs 100 miles?
Crazy.
Okay.
Me and my buddies joke about that all the time. It takes a special person, crazy person to do what we do. Most people, when I even tell them I run 30 miles, think I'm nuts. So taking on 100, people look at me like I have two heads. Like, what's wrong with you? But me and my buddies, Jay and Gina and some of the other buddies I've met, Pat, we love challenging ourselves, pushing our body to another level, pushing our minds, which actually, especially at the 100-mile distance, it's not even the physical as much as the mind. We probably will get into it later, but you were there, I think, at mile, actually, no, you had just left, about mile 56 aid station. That was the lowest point for me, and that was a mental piece where it just felt like crap. You know, it starts going through your head like, why am I out here? I'm 190 pounds running 100 miles. This is nuts. And all these other people are, you know, 150 and whatever. And but I know I have a pretty strong mental game. And so I just told myself, you know, you're going to get out of this. It's just, it might take you a few miles, get some real food in and recover, and you'll be back.
Mm-hmm. What draws you to the sport? Because you've done a lot of things, crossfitter, bodybuilder, you know, jiu-jitsu. You've done a lot. Open water swimming with me.
Yeah.
What draws you to a race like that? What is it?
A lot of things. I think we've talked about this briefly, but one of the reasons I got into ultra running, I mean, there was a lot of different things that came together, but one started off with kind of feeling like I lost all my aerobic capacity through bodybuilding, and even with CrossFit, I would say I have a strong anaerobic capacity, but I had no aerobic capacity. Going out west and seeing beautiful terrain and things, and realizing that on a week or 14 days, just couldn't see enough. And I wanted to cover more trails and more things. And it started to kind of get me excited I wanted to cover more ground, and running was one way to do that. And I got out there a few times running some of the trails and saw some beautiful areas. And also started to feel like a kid again, where you're just kind of free. That was kind of what got me back into running itself. And then decided to do my first trail race, which was White Face mountain race. And same thing, like I went up White Face, which I'd been used to from a lot of hiking, and went back down. And it was one of the hardest things I'd ever done, even with bodybuilding, pushing my legs and my body to all these different levels. I came down White Face and I thought I was going to crumble and fall face plant. Just how challenging it was to descend. Mm-hmm. And I actually placed pretty well. So one, challenging my body, but two, doing well. It was kind of that success piece of, wow, I haven't even trained for this, and I felt like I was doing well. Maybe I should do this more. And so my first couple of races, I actually did pretty well. They were small local races. And then
what distance?
White Face was only, I think, 5 miles.
And so for listeners, you ran up White Face.
Power hiked it, but
okay,
yep.
and then down.
And then ran down.
So for everyone listening that drives yes. up and down, Bob's talking about nonchalantly just running up and down, basically.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, and then a few months later, I ran out in Rochester and did a trail race there, which was 10 miles. And same thing, I placed third with minimal running and minimal training, and thought, maybe I'm better at running than I give myself credit, and probably should put a little more into this. And to sum up your question without going too much further, is as I got into it more, it's become the community, it's the mental challenge, it's the physical challenge, and just pushing to see how far the body goes. I know I've heard Courtney DeWalter talk about that all the time, just like, well, if I can go this far, can I go further? Mm-hmm. And my original goal was pushing to a 50K. And once I realized I could do that, it was like, well, how much further can you go? Mm-hmm. And then it turned into a 50 miler and 100K. And then once I started to get into that distance, it kind of made me realize, like, all right, I want to do at least 100 before I'm done running, or I don't know if I'll ever stop running, but at least want to get one of those done and just see what it's like.
And you did.
Yeah.
That's a cool point you brought up with seeing more terrain, more scenery, more peaks of mountains. I have a lot of respect for that, and that's a lot of the reason why I do the open water swimming. Yeah. You've joined me on half of those. There's just something about that. Like, yes, you're getting that physical accomplishment, mm-hmm. but you're in nature, like connected, and like you're in the elements. Like when we were swimming Sagamore Lake, we're in the middle of the lake and we're like black storm clouds running through. We're like, way out, and we're like,
nobody's there.
No one's there. Like there's an addictive piece there, right? And mm-hmm. I wouldn't consider myself an adrenaline junkie, but like at the same time, training in unknown environments is somewhat appealing, right? Because of the unknown, right?
Agreed.
Versus, and we're big gym guys too. Obviously, we own gyms, we do for a living, we train a lot in the gym. But having that other side is really cool. So to hear you say that, and then also like being a kid again,
Yeah.
Like adult, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast, but like adults lose that.
They
like
do.
definitely. We actually see kids lose that.
Yeah.
That's sad.
It is.
But like amen to that. Like running through nature, free. You said free. Like that's powerful stuff. And like for people listening, you don't need to be an ultra runner to experience any of what we just described. Like you could hike, you could like swim 400 meters out and back to a, island or something. Like there are so many ways to layer sort of what we're getting into. You're at the upper extreme, but these are some big points for people.
Exactly.
So, I want you to give listeners a rough idea of how you prepped for this race, like volume per week, prior big races that you completed, and maybe a little bit about the Adirondack Grids, because I'm still a little confused about what that is.
Okay. I mean, as far as prep, when I started back in 2020, my main goal was that 50K. And I basically looked up a program online, just a cookie cutter program. And I wasn't quite at the level I probably should have been when I started the program, but I also knew I had only a certain amount of weeks to get ready. And I was kind of just at the outer edge of that programming. So I just kind of tailored it back a little bit from what it suggested to get started. And then every week, if I felt a little bit, if I was feeling good, I would start to increase the mileage to get ready for that. And for my first 50K, it basically had me running about, I think it was 30-ish miles a week, something, I think it was right around there. So I was probably a little less to start with, and then I built on that. And then once I got through the initial aerobic base, when you get to the prep, for the race prep for the 50K, and I just started to increase that. And I think I might have maxed out somewhere around 40 miles. And my longest long run was somewhere around, I think, 26 maybe in prep for that. So just like a marathon. And then basically the following months after that, I just wanted to become more efficient. So my mileage didn't really increase much initially, but I just kept running and getting more efficient at what I was doing. And then later in because of 2020, no races actually happened. So I actually prepped through that whole year. I only got to race once, and it was a short race. And then so just gave me more time to prep for 2021 season, which I did 250Ks early. Decided I wanted to do a 50 miler after that. And then I started to increase mileage. And honestly, off the top of my head, I don't remember what mileage I increased to last year. Probably was somewhere in the 40-50 range. And then after that, I was going to take some time off and let my legs recover, my body recover, mental state recover. But a buddy of mine got me interested in the grid, and I can go into that a little bit later actually. But so I started doing some more hiking to go with him, and then the addiction started, and actually started working towards a single season winner.
So for listeners, because we're skimming over that, most people maybe listening to this, the Adirondack 46er, right? You do the 46 peaks in the Adirondack Park. You're saying a single season, you do all 46 in the winter.
Correct.
So let's clarify that.
So from December 21st to March 21st, you have to do all 46 peaks. And when I originally got into it, I wasn't planning. I was just joining some friends for some hikes, and then I joined in for some more. And before I knew it, I was a third of the way in less than a month. And I was like, well, I might as well go for this as well. And when else am I going to probably do this many peaks in a 3-month span? So that kind of increased, not necessarily, it did increase mileage, but also time on feet. But that was mostly just a fun project. At this point, I wasn't even planning 100. And then again, a buddy got me interested in 100K. So again, mileage, I was already kind of doing that with the single season winner. So this is all kind of not even planned towards the 100, but this is just me building fitness through adventure and having fun.
I was just going to say that, like, that's amazing how you got to this point, right? Running 100 miles is through fun and adventure.
Correct.
Like it just built, you didn't have this goal, right? Like 3 years ago or whatever, like let's run 100 miles. And I think that's why this is such an authentic journey, right? And I think I want to encourage more people to follow something like that.
Yeah.
Only because then it's true and it's enjoyable. And then you end up where you're supposed to end up.
Yep.
And it's not forced. So
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was never forced. The 50K was kind of the only thing I initially started with, where I was kind of forcing myself to train for it. But then after that ability and mental capacity was there, I was like, I can do more and I want to do more. And how much further can I go? But I also been trying to mix in outdoor goals, adventure goals, things that I used to look at as crazy that people were doing and never thought I would attempt. And then they became goals and I started just slowly start checking them off. But again, that increased time on feet, increased mileage, increased, aerobic capacity, muscle endurance, even strength to some degree, the amount of peaks that you're climbing, the amount of vert you're getting in a day.
Sure.
So I did my first 100K this past February. And then after that, it was in my head, like, well, the next step is 100 miler.
So 100K is 62 miles approximately.
Correct. Yep.
And then you're thinking, let's jump to that 100.
Yeah. And I was a little nervous because it's still almost 40 more miles.
Yeah.
So I was still a little nervous going into it, but it was in the back of my brain, you know what, I'd like to do one before the end of the year. So I started looking into that. And I originally wanted to go out west, but the flights were so expensive, I decided to look close to home and basically found Virgil Crest. And I liked it because I obviously wanted the 100, but I also like a challenge. And I know that vert is one of my, I like it. I don't like flat courses. They get boring to me, but I also know because I do so much peak work that's going to be an advantage to me in a race versus a flat course where you can just open up, and that's not my strong suit. But anyway, so after I had found this race, I started doing a couple small races earlier in this year, and then decided, okay, now we got to start picking up some mileage and get ready. And so I was probably hovering or averaging right around 40, 45 miles a week. And I decided, all right, so, roughly 10 to 15% is about all you really want to increase per week. So I just started kind of doing the math, and I came up with my own little program, where I basically train hard for 2 weeks, take a taper week, train for 2 weeks, take a taper week. I didn't have a lot of time before this race, so I didn't even build up to the mileage that I, in theory, would have liked to have gotten to. But I basically ended up building up to my peak week was right around 83 miles in prep for this. But some people do more, 100 or more. And
it looked like with your Strava stuff that you sent me for this year, you averaged, was it 74 miles a week on average? That includes your races and big weekends and stuff. But time on feet was 74 miles per week average. And it was 17 hours and maybe 49 minutes of training. And again, average, big weeks, small weeks, so that's a level of commitment for people listening that want to train 2 or 3 days a week for an hour.
Correct.
That's a different world.
Whole different level. Even when I first started running, I was reading the Uphill Athlete and learning a lot about miles and the time that, a class 1, class 2, and basically elite runner put into it. And at the time, before I read this book, I thought, well, I've been running on and off for years. I'm a athlete. I'm a Crossfitter. I've been a runner. I'm probably like a moderate runner, right? And start looking at the mileage and the time that these people put in. I was a beginner. And I was like, whoa.
I remember when you brought that up to me, when you had that epiphany.
I was like, whoa, like I'm only doing maybe 4 hours a week. And the class 2 runner, the way they put it, is at least 7. And I was like, wow, okay, we got to at least get to that point then. I want to at least be doing 7 hours a week. And as far as like actual running, I'm probably somewhere in the 7 to 10. The 17 is a lot of hiking, power hiking up peaks. But in ultra running, and especially 100Ks and 100 milers, a lot of it is power hiking. So that time on feet and that vert is super important for those. Sure.
Now, when we talk about vert, we mean vertical gain, right? Virgil Crest, the race you just did, had about 22,000 feet. Because
Correct.
I said this to Jessie yesterday,
Yeah.
and she goes, "Oh, you mean 2,200?" And I was thinking like a high peak.
Yeah.
I was like, "No, Jess, 22,000 feet
Yes.
of elevation
Yeah.
gain." And she was like, "Oh my."
Yes.
And so you averaged about 4 miles per hour, a little bit under that.
Yep.
But so let's put this into an idea for people. You're taking rests at aid stations.
Correct.
Where you're sitting, not for long periods of time by any means, but you're slowing down for those. And then there's some power hiking up super steep sections, but to average almost 4 miles per hour for 28 hours, that's extremely unbelievable, in my eyes, in terms of the capacity, the volume for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Because again, people listening be like, "Oh, I run 7 miles an hour on a treadmill for a 5K." I'm like, dude, this is way different. 28 hours and change, and you ran through the night too. Yes. Which I want to get into at some point. So you mentioned the lowest point of the race. I actually wasn't with you during that. I wish I was, but you were at mile 56.
Yeah.
The sun has set or is setting. I think it set at that point.
It was already dark. Yeah.
It was dark. So you had been running since 6 a.m. and this is now 10 o'clock p.m., right?
Yeah, probably somewhere right around there.
Okay, that's about what I figured it out to be.
Yeah.
And so you've run all day.
Yep.
56 miles. It's over 2 marathons. And you hit your lowest point.
Yep.
And now you're entering into, and I'm fascinated by the mindset with this. You're looking at what's ahead of you, right?
Yep.
So you've got 46 or 44 miles left, and you've got to run through the night. Your feet are trashed. And I know that because I saw them at mile 33, 40, and 44. They're already messed up.
Yeah.
So how do you, and I know at mile 33, your quads were cramping, they were hurting. And you had said, you said something along the lines of I thrive when it gets hard or when I'm struggling. You said something like that. And I was like, I know you, and I know that's your mindset. But at mile 56, what did you tell yourself?
At mile 56, I was basically dealing with headache, a stomach that was off. I didn't feel like eating. Basically all I wanted to do was take down fluids. And as you said, my toes were bothering me. And my mental capacity it was definitely tough. And I was questioning myself of why I was out there and oh my God, you have 40 plus miles and you're still 6 to 8 miles under your furthest day, under your longest day. And you're already in pain. You're already hurting. You're already struggling, so it goes through your brain. You're gonna be able to do this. At the same time, I would consider myself mentally strong. And luckily I had a really good crew. My buddy Pat and my buddy Jay were helping me. My buddy Pat was pacing me at the time. My buddy Jay was crewing me all day and paced me towards the end. And they were both very supportive and encouraging, and basically telling me, you're going to get out of this. You're going to get past this. You're going to be able to move, which I knew. I've listened to enough podcasts. I've listened to enough runners talk about it. I knew this was something that was going to happen to me at some point during the race. So they were encouraging me, but I was also telling myself deep down, dude, this sucks right now, but we get some food in, we get some nutrition, we just get moving, and it's going to dissipate. You're going to move past it, and then you're going to be fine. And it was definitely a struggle during that, I don't know, probably an hour that I was feeling like that, if not more. But then, spent, I don't know, probably 20 minutes in that aid station getting food, and then finally took off and got moving. And probably within 10, 20 minutes, energy came back, stomach went away. Then the headache was gone. The only thing I was dealing with at that point was just toes and feet. But that was something, if everything else felt good, it was I can work through that. But yeah, definitely a tough mental piece. And if you give up at the first sign of pain and discomfort, you're not going to survive. That's
mile 10.
Yeah, you're not going to survive 100 miles.
Well, and talk about survivability. 2/3 of the people dropped out.
Yes,
of the race.
correct.
Okay, yeah. So 11, 12?
Oh, yeah, 11 out of 32, I think it was, and a few people didn't even start. And
you got third.
Yep,
overall. So yeah, so there was, and I saw this one guy come through, and you could tell he was a high level runner at mile 40. And he was done mentally. Like he sat down and his head was low and his voice and his parents were there and his wife. And he just like, I don't think I can keep going. And he was just, he was checked out. He did take off. I don't know. I doubt he finished.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's like no disrespect, right? Like, fuck, he just ran 40 miles and it was pretty fast.
It's hard.
He was not far behind you, but,
Yeah.
but he was going down quick. And it was just a mental break, right? You see it with Navy SEALs, Special Forces, different situations. You're hungry, you're hurting, you've got a long distance ahead of you, a challenge, and it smashes you. But I liked this, and I'm going to use this myself. You told yourself like it will pass. That goes farther than life in general, right? Like hard time, like this will pass. I'm in pain with the race. This will pass, and it did. And so instead of staying in that comfort zone of just quitting and I can go to my warm bed, you just said keep moving and it'll pass.
Correct.
That's a great piece of advice.
I mean, I'd say that's how I tackle life in general, even day-to-day stuff. If something is tough, it can definitely wear on me at times or put you in a bad mood for an hour or the rest of the day. But it's the same thing in daily life. I tell myself, okay, this is just one day. This is 1 hour. This is one workout. This is one whatever. You get through it and things get better. And I think it's a great piece for anybody to take in any aspect of life.
For sure. What did you consume during the race?
Mostly, my main probably calorie consumption is tailwind nutrition. So it's a mixture of electrolytes, carbohydrates. That's pretty much it. Electrolytes, carbohydrates, a little bit of caffeine. That's my main thing. With that, I was also taking GU energy gels, spring energy gels, some GU chews, same thing, electrolytes. This was a lot of my like simple nutrition stuff or liquid nutrition. And then as the race went on, as my pace slowed, as I was getting low on energy, we had to start switching over to some real food. And then it was anything from actually pierogies were one of the biggest things that we were taking in. I wasn't sure that was actually going to be something I was going to enjoy while running, but actually it went down pretty easy and I think gave me a lot of energy in it. So that was really good. Pickles, fantastic again. They taste good, refreshing, and again some good sodium in there. And what else?
Well, you have bananas, pretzels. Those are the two big ones that I gave you.
My buddy Pat, I had never had one. I've been wanting to try them for a while. Actually, I think maybe I did try one once, but when I got to mile 56 and I was feeling like crap, nothing wanted to go in. My buddy Pat gave me a picky bar. I'm sure some people have heard of those. Basically, I think they're all organic and they basically just clean nutrition. And he gave it to me and it was just like, it was moist, 270 calories. It tasted good, and to the point where it just helped me kind of like get those extra calories down. It probably was one of the big things that got me through that next 4 miles or so and kind of feel better in the end. I don't think there's anything else. Oh, later on in the night, we had grilled cheese, bacon, salt potatoes.
Really? What mile did that start?
That would have been, let's see, that would have been mile 75. So that was at Pipeline Aid Station. And again, Jay met me there. Pat was with me at the time. This is one of the last aid stations he was with me at. And I was I didn't go as low at that point, but I was kind of in another low where I hadn't been taking enough nutrition. It was late in I think it might have been like 11:30, midnight at that point. And then a couple of my other friends, Ashley and Sarah, they were crewing the aid station. And so they were trying to help me out as well and get me some liquid nutrition as well as like trying to give me some real food. And one of them was like, do you like bacon? And I was like, who doesn't? Hand that over. Yeah, let's get that in. And grilled cheese too is something I've always loved as a kid, and had it once before at the Black Canyon 100 and realized how that just hit the spot in the middle of a race when you're cold, it's late, you're hungry, and it's just good calories. Yeah.
You know, I think I was looking at was it about 13,000 calories the average person would burn for that distance? That was in one of the things I saw on the website, Virgil
Okay.
Crest website, I think,
Oh, okay.
was like calorie expenditure was
Okay.
about 13,000.
I'm not sure I looked at that.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty close to what my GPS told me as
Oh,
well.
okay. Oh, there
It
you
was
go.
pretty close.
Oh,
So,
cool. Okay, so they're right
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Yeah, 13,000. Wow. Yeah, the average person's burning what, like 2,000 a day, 2,200?
Yeah, probably anywhere between 2 and 3,000, maybe. If
Yeah,
with basic metabolic rate and activity.
and activity.
From
Sure.
their activity, it's probably 500.
Sure, sure. What kind of role did the Pacers play? So you picked up a pacer at mile 50.
Yeah.
And then you had two different guys. It was Jay and Pat.
Yep.
To right to the finish. And so how did they help you?
So Pacers in general, the biggest thing they're doing is just trying to keep you motivated. It's gonna give you somebody to chase. So when you're feeling down, but they're also there from a mental side, which I think is huge. And this is my buddy Pat's really good at this from the standpoint. He's always has a super positive energy. He's always gung ho. He's carrying on conversation. So you're forgetting you're in that moment of pain when you're carrying conversation and talking and communicating. And when you're not feeling good, it might be encouraging to, hey, you need to drink more, you need to eat more, you need to get more in. So those are things often when you're in that last half of the race, you're tired, you're fatigued, you're just focusing on putting one foot in front of the other, and you sometimes forget to eat, forget to drink until it's too late. And then you hit those low points. And so that's one thing Pat was doing for me along the way was, Bob, all right, about every half hour, 45 minutes, we need to get something in. Hey, how long's it been since you ate? Let's get food in. And so that's really huge, because if he wasn't doing that, it's very possible I could have fell into that low point multiple times or deeper into those holes. And now you're going to spend more time in an aid station, feeling like crap, more potential to want to quit. So super encouraging. And then my buddy Jay, he crewed me all day, and same thing, making sure I was eating and drinking enough, getting enough sodium, making sure, changing my shoes and socks out for me, putting lube on my feet for me. Who wants to do that?
Sure. Yeah.
And then he came in at mile 83, I think it was, to take over for the rest of the night. And Jay and I met him back in 21 through one of the races that I did. And him and I have been hiking and adventuring together basically since. So we're real close, and we like to break balls and quote movies. And so same thing, a lot of times he was pacing me probably anywhere between, I forget the time, I wasn't paying that much attention, but probably between 3 a.m. and 11 a.m. when I finished. And him and I are just quoting movies, and that again just keeps the morale and your spirits high. And so him and I would just go back and forth on some of that stuff. And again, miles would just pass by, and then, hey, we're at the next aid station. All right, cool, let's go. And then as well as planning, one of the last things he did towards the end is, you're looking good. Do you even need to stop at this aid station? Do you want me to just fill your bottles quick and we'll head out? And those are the things that, they do for you, is help you think and process when you're not all there.
Now I want to throw out for people listening, Jay and Pat are very high level athletes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because not anyone just comes and paces you.
No.
Especially through the night.
Yep.
So Pat did 30 miles with you?
Yeah, he did about 34 miles, I think it was.
Okay, so 34 miles. And didn't you tell me, I think you said he trained earlier in the day?
Yeah, so he actually ran the Virgil Crest 10K.
Okay.
I think it was actually, that was what it was marketed as. I think it was actually a 5-miler. I think they changed the course last minute. Pat went out there that morning. I didn't even know he was running at first. And last minute, one of my pacers kind of bailed, had some other life issues going on. So I reached out to Pat like Thursday night or Friday morning, I forget what it was. And I was like, dude, what are you up to this weekend? He goes, oh, I'm running the 10K. And I was like, oh. I was like, I was going to ask you if you wanted to pace. And he's like, yeah, let me check in with Bethany and I'll be right back and I'll get back to you. And then like a half hour later, he's like, I'm in, dude. Let's go.
Unreal. So
Yeah.
ran a 10K at the race you were at.
And he won.
Okay. And then he paces you 30 some miles at night.
At night.
Yeah.
On a whim.
That's a freak. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then obviously Jay is, your level too. Like
Yep.
he's, super high level, and he helped you, like you said, 3 a.m. to the finish.
Yep.
And he helped
crewed
you
me all day.
All day. Well, that's the other thing. So he was with you 6 a.m. or earlier, and then he hops in like a monster at 3 a.m. to get you through.
Yes.
There's a lot to be said for that.
A ton.
So yeah. Okay.
Like I said, that these guys are the reasons I finished. If I didn't have them, either I wouldn't have finished, or if I did, it would have been a lot more painful and a lot slower, and just a lot less enjoyable. But yeah, I think these guys a ton. They've been there for me more than just this race. They're two of my best friends in the running community. So.
So I'm curious about this. After the race is over, you cross the finish line, because I was like texting you and Jay at like, I don't know, 7 a.m. and I wasn't hearing back anything.
Yeah.
And I was like freaking out, And so finally Jay responded, I think at like 10:30, and then you at like 11:30 or something. So there's a sense of relief, but you crossed the finish line. Few questions. What does that feel like? And then what does the next 6 to 8 hours look like?
The finish line, I've never looked so forward to reaching a finish line before in my entire life. Normally, I mean, there's definitely been times where you're tired and you want the finish line and you're there. But I think one of the reasons why I'm mentally strong is I embrace and I enjoy the actual event. It's pretty rare when I'm hiking that I want to be out of the woods. It's pretty rare that I'm like, I can't wait to get to my car, or this sucks. Like, I love being out there. Jay's been with me a couple times where I've had some miserable times, where, you're 5 miles away from the car and you just want to get home. But with this 100, it was so far that there was definitely, I mean, even at 56, I wouldn't say I was fully checked out, but there was definitely got to a point probably in that 70 to 80 where I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I can't wait to be to the finish line. And so like when you finally see that, it's just like a weight off your shoulders. Like, I'm done. I finished this. And this is this huge accomplishment that, even though I wasn't originally planning on doing this 2.5 years ago, it's like, wow, I finally reached this goal. And this is like, I mean, there are some races that are longer, but this is kind of like the standard for ultra runners. Like, you did 100-miler. And, I don't know if I'll ever go further or not, but it was pretty exciting. And I don't think I've ever been super emotional after any race or most competitions, even maybe a little bit when I got my pro bodybuilding status. But like, there was definitely like almost some feeling of tears coming across when I came to that 100, which again, I've heard that numerous times, and I didn't think that would be me, because I'm not super emotional like that, but I definitely felt that towards the end. And it was awesome to have not only Jay and Pat, definitely they're the biggest heroes there, but even people like a few of the other girls I've known through other races, but even some random people who I've never met before at the finish line cheering me on and congratulating me on an amazing race. And just to have that kind of support, especially from people you don't know, is pretty awesome. And I didn't get into this. I think I probably should, though. I ran with this girl, Caitlin, most of the race, basically from 20 something miles all the way until the end. We ran together for, I don't know, 20 plus miles. Then, she got her pacer somewhere at probably 70. Yeah, probably around 68, 70 miles. And then we played leapfrog for a little bit. And then towards the end, she was ahead of me, probably anywhere between a quarter and a half mile the whole time. I'd get into aid stations and they'd be like, oh, she just left a few minutes ago. And at that point, I was so tired that I just assumed she's got second place. I'm not going to catch her. She's ahead of me. She's a strong athlete. And then going into the last aid station, I was feeling good. And Jay basically said, hey, I'll just grab you food and stuff and we can go through. And we get there and like her and her husband are sitting at the aid station. She looks tired. And I'm just like, whoa, okay. So I basically just waved, said hi, kept going, thought I might have potential to snag second place. Long story short, she did catch up to me. Like I said, she's a very strong runner. I wasn't going to give up that easy though. So we came down one of the steepest hills where she passed me, and we hit the flat road, and I just basically tried to get in front of her. My whole goal was to mentally stop her, like hopefully just take the wind out of her sails. So I tried to pass her there, and then tried to crush the uphill and hope that I'd lose her. And she stayed on my ass the whole time. And then finally took me over. I tried to stay with her, and she just kept going. I couldn't keep up with her. So it was a little bit of a letdown, because I thought I might have had that potential to take that from her. But what I can say is well deserved. She was one hell of an athlete. And the same thing coming across the finish line, like she was so excited for me. I was excited for her to have, again, that's one of the great things about the ultra trail running community is everybody cheers each other on. Everybody's excited for each other. It's not like we're there throwing in each other's face or getting pissed at each other. We hugged each other, and it was great to meet each other. Now we're connecting on social media. That type of thing is really cool. As far as the hours after, as soon as I finished, I didn't feel like eating. That's the first thing you think. I get through the finish line, you're going to want to eat and pound calories, and everybody's like offering me food, and I was like, I just want to rest here for a little bit. So I don't know, I probably took a half hour. Actually, it might have been closer to an hour, and then finally ordered some food, got that down, and then basically hobbled to my truck. So at this point, after taking my shoes off, my feet were destroyed. I had blisters on my toes, under my feet. One of my toes was definitely looked like it was going to fall off, and just it was hard to walk. So I'm literally hobbling to my car. I had an hour and a half drive home. So the first thing I was like, I got to take a nap. So literally just hopped in my car, slept for about 2.5 hours, got up, thought I was going to drive home again. Now I'm hungry again. Had to go stop, get food, then finally get home. And when I got home, same thing. I wasn't hungry, just wanted to lay down and rest, but couldn't fall asleep.
Yeah, you said that to me.
Yeah.
I know, at 1:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Gosh, I asked you, like, were you in bed by like 7? And you're like, no, dude, like couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. Like your cortisol is all fucked up, stress hormones and, so that made sense to me. It's like you just experienced a traumatic event, right? So the fact that you couldn't sleep after didn't surprise me. Nope. So, yeah.
But when I finally got to bed, I slept about 8 hours almost straight, and which is also pretty rare for me to sleep 8 hours straight. So that's a testament how tired I was. But yeah, slept for 8 hours. And then the next day, same thing, like wasn't overly hungry, but trying to get calories in. So the recovery process is a little slow. And just yesterday, the hunger started to come back and started to get ravenous. Like I was at work in between clients and I couldn't eat enough. And I was just like, cool.
And you eat a lot anyway.
I eat a lot anyway, but I was hungrier than normal. I was like, I usually carry a bag of food with me everywhere I go, and I'm just going through my bag, just housing calories.
And now you are taking a week off.
Yep.
Right. No training, minimum. Yeah, exactly. And for people listening, deload weeks or rest weeks, especially at your level, are mandatory.
Yeah.
The body's not designed to run at that high volume, full throttle all the time. You won't make it. It would just break.
Yep.
So you're going to feel amazing in 7 to 10 days because you're totally healing.
Yeah.
And then you come back and you rebuild whatever game plan moving forward. But that cyclical training, you peaked, you hit your race, now you're coming sharply down the other side and gonna rest for a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's huge. One thing we didn't get into, and we said we would, and I think people will find this fascinating, the Adirondack grids. So let's quickly go over what that is.
Yeah, so a grid is basically you're hiking or climbing all 46 high peaks every month of the year. That it doesn't have to be in a single year. So you can do this over the course of 3, 5, 10 years, however long it takes you. But you're still going to do all 46 in each month. All right. So there is a single season grid, which I think 1 or maybe 2 people have done or worked on. that's a whole nother level of commitment. You'd pretty much have to live in the high peaks.
So you mean single season grid would be all 46 peaks in January, all 46 February, right? Is that what you're talking
correct?
About?
In
so
1 year.
In
calendar.
1 year, yeah. So 12 months straight.
Yes.
So it'd be 46 peaks times 12.
Correct.
Is how many you've done.
Yep.
Okay, that's crazy.
It is.
How many people have done that?
I don't know. I think I feel like it's only 1 or 2 maybe.
Okay.
And
how many months have you done all 46? Have you done any?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So what are you chasing or going after? Or
I don't have a set deadline per se, but at the rate that I'm going, I'm planning I'll probably finish in 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years for what?
To get the grid. So I'll still be doing 46 in each month, but over a 3-4 year span versus a year.
Okay.
So as an example, when I did my single season winter this year, I did 25 peaks in January. So that leaves me with another 21 over the next couple of years to
gotcha. So you can bank them.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's clarify that again. So say you did 10 peaks in January this year.
Correct.
You need to do 36 more in the following Januaries to check off the January grid.
You got it.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Man, that's fascinating.
Yes.
Maybe that'll inspire people. Like that's pretty badass.
Yeah, I heard of it years ago and thought it was absolutely nuts and thought I will never do that. That's ridiculous. And up until I got into ultra running, that was my thought process. And then my buddy Jay's actually been working on it for the past 2.5 years, I think.
Yep.
He's actually down to his last, he's only got a couple months left. He's closed out most of them. I think he said something like 7 or 10 peaks left.
So if we run the math on that, I'll get my handy dandy calculator out.
552 peaks.
Oh, there you go. So 552 peaks.
Yep.
To complete the Adirondack grid.
Correct.
And you've done how many?
176 so far.
176.
So I'm in the beginning stage.
So 176 times or peaks you've done in the Adirondacks.
Yes.
Or not separate peaks, but of the 46.
In the grid format, if you actually count.
In the grid format.
Yeah. If you count ones that I've done that are overlapping, I probably am over 200.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Man, that is wild. So I didn't understand that going into this conversation. I had this down. That is wild.
Yeah.
But dude, like, I mean, we talk about this, and that 47 Laker challenge is sort of this for me, but like setting these goals, audacious goals out farther, like long-term, right? Type things, not only just in training, but life in general. Like that's what's like makes life exciting. And like, you know, you want to get up and like, you can see big goals out there, but you're patient with them.
Yes.
This is like crazy.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
You've got to have those things to look forward to. And with this being so big, I could let it consume me and do nothing but chase the grid. And like, so back when in the winter, when I was chasing the single season winner, it did consume me because the timeline is so short that I knew if I didn't let it consume me, I wouldn't hit that goal.
Sure.
With the grid, I told myself if I was to let that consume me, that could take 2 years of, you know, no weekends off, you know, or if somebody asks you to go on a hike that doesn't fit your grid, you have to turn them down. And I was like, I don't want that to be the issue. I want the grid to be I'm chasing it, I'm going after it, but I don't want it to consume my entire life. I want to still be able to have fun with friends and go do things. So if a friend asks me, hey, do you want to go do this peak? And I've already done it. It's like, yeah, sure. Why not? Okay. Let's go have fun. But if I have no other plans, all right, cool. I'm going to plan it. So I'm hitting specific peaks that fit the months that I need to hit them, so that I have some focus and some intent behind it.
Yeah.
Because even the peaks that I've redone, when I first started calculating and looking at my grid, I had several months where I did the same peak in the same month. And I was like, wow, like that doesn't help me at all.
Sure. Other than training.
Other than training, right?
Sure. Wow. Well, and you are really good at saying yes to friends with certain adventures and whatnot,
Yeah.
me being one of them.
Yeah.
So there's a quick story I want to tell everyone listening. So you did the Cranberry 50.
Yep.
So it's a run / power hike,
Yep.
50 miles around Cranberry Lake.
Correct.
And it took you 10 hours and some change, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it was 10:22.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I connected with you and I'm like, do you want to swim Racket Lake the next day, 1 mile, open water swim, unaided, no wetsuits, right?
Yeah.
And you said, yes. That's nuts.
Yes.
And so like I got up to Racket Lake the following day. So you did what, Saturday you did the Cranberry, and then Sunday, I think it was, right?
Yes.
I came over.
Yep.
This is the following day. And like your feet were banged up, like you just ran 50 miles the following day.
Yeah.
And you get in the water and you swim 1 mile with me. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're not a swimmer, right? Like you can swim.
I can swim, but I am not a great swimmer by any means.
But just the reality of it is like you said yes. You were far from recovered. And that to me is just inspiring. That's super cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to say earlier, and that's one of the reasons, again, I got into ultra running or into endurance sports again, was I wanted the ability to be able to do anything at any given time. I mean, that's actually one thing I love about lifting, CrossFit, anything, is when you do all these different modalities and learn how to do things, you can say yes to anything. I know I hear so many people all the time, well, I'm not good at that. I can't do that. I can't do this. And then you're missing out on experiences. And so the way I look at that is if I build up my resume and I build up all these skills, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. Obviously there's always a limitation. There's always going to be some kind of ceiling there, but I want to minimize that ceiling. I want to have that potential. Like, never been a great swimmer. I never planned on doing the 47 with you. I didn't have that plan until you asked me to join you. And now it's on my radar. It's like, well, that's cool. It's another challenge. And it's cool. Again, I love chasing challenges and, check marking things and experiences, but also the experience, as we said earlier, being in the middle of an Adirondack lake with nobody around. And it's like the Sagamore, I didn't even know, really never been out to that lake until maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And even then I only ran out there. I didn't get in the water, but being in there and swimming halfway across the lake and
dark, overcast day, no one's up there, there's no boats.
Correct.
We're totally alone.
You're exploring another part of the Adirondacks or the world that most people never see or never see from that angle or that view. So I just think that's really cool. And that's kind of what got me into ultra running as well, is being able to tackle things and see things that most people never get a chance to.
Yeah, and the occasional super surprise. I mean, you almost shit ourselves swimming Sagamore when we hit that rock.
Oh, yeah.
So for listeners, quick story again. We were out a ways, but we were on the home stretch. So we were a little tired, whatever, and we're looking toward shore. And both at the same time, we beached, literally.
Yep.
Like probably 400 yards offshore. Yeah. Like into a boulder.
Yes.
And we were like, my first instinct was like what in the fuck just hit my chest?
Yep.
And you had that same reaction at the same time. And we looked down and we were like on a rock.
Yep.
And we kicked off, obviously. We didn't like sit there or anything, but like you cut your leg.
Yep.
I hit my watch really hard, so hard to the point where I looked to make sure it was still working.
Yeah.
But like we continued and we were like, holy fuck. Like, so like you do have cool things that come up, occasionally. Thank God it wasn't some sea monster.
Correct. But I mean, I don't know. It's just you would never know there was a huge rock there unless you spend time out there. And it's cool.
Yeah, and we recovered quick and we refocused and we went on.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap this up. We're about an hour in. It's been a pleasure talking. You inspire me. Hopefully you're inspiring lots of people. I know you're doing an amazing job at Garage Gym Oneida, your business. You crush it with personal training group classes. Yeah. And obviously you're the leader walking the walk, which is really cool to see. How can listeners learn more about you, your Garage Gym community, follow you maybe on Instagram, all of that?
Awesome. I mean, you can go to garagegymoneida.com and check our site out, and you can sign up. If you click the free intro button, it'll send us, basically create a profile for you and send us an email, and we can reach out to you and get you started either for a free class to try out, or we can set you up for a free consult and potentially see what kind of services you're interested in, and maybe get you into private coaching or group classes or remote programming, whatever it is you need help with. You can also go to our Instagram, Garage Gym Oneida, or even contact me on Instagram at Bob the Bodybuilder, 83 actually. But yeah, reach out to us, and if you're interested, we can help you with pretty much whatever your goals are. Everything is specifically tailored to the individual, at least from the private coaching side. Obviously, group classes are a little bit different, but we have lots of people who were hesitant to come in, and they've seen great results and thank us on a daily basis for the results they've seen and the things they've learned. So yeah, if you're looking to change your life, looking to get healthier, lose body fat, get increased performance, reach out to us, and we'll help you on your journey.
Awesome. Bob, it was a pleasure.
Pleasure as always, Josh.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.